Hi, I'm Heather Endhausen, and we are doing work-life balance bucket number 9 today, which is about connecting to God and or your higher self or the divine. People use different words these days. Um, when I was a kid and growing up in Missouri, it was just God. There was there was no such thing as universe or higher power or any of that. It was God or there was something wrong with you. But we obviously know it's not like that anymore. So, good morning. Two of my favorite men are here with me this morning. It's awesome to have you with me. And so, let's just jump right into this. So, I've been sharing my own personal theory with you guys, which is the 10 10 buckets for work life balance. And if your 10 buckets are full, you're doing a pretty good job of living a work life balance, a life where you're experiencing peace, prosperity, connection, things are working out for you. Okay, so today we're looking at your connection to the divine, your connection to God. And so here's some questions. I wrote them down in the thing. You may have read them already. But anyway, do you ever feel lonely? Right? Because if we feel lonely, there's some kind of disconnect going on. Do you ever get super frustrated because things aren't going your way? That happens for me. And I know that when that happens for me, I'm definitely not connected with my higher power. Do you get mad at others for not having them do what you want them to do? Right? It's the same thing. It's that like trying to control what's going on for you. Do you long for peace, but recognize that you're living in total chaos? Like I know last night I sent a text to a family member that was like, hey, don't forget tomorrow's whatever. And they were like, yeah, that's Wednesday. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm just trying to create drama and get attention. And it's like you start to live in this place where you're aware of what you're creating. And that's what I was up to, called myself on it. And it was just a funny moment. But it's moments like that that we can really, create separation from each other and from ourselves. So let's talk about relationships to begin with. So I think relationships happen in three ways. With myself, primarily, most important, my first 5 buckets talk about how to connect with yourself. We're looking at things like what's going on in my body, what's going on in my mind, how's my self love, how's my self care, and what's my worthiness and my boundaries looking like. And then we start looking at relationships outside of us. So I did the parenting bucket and like the spouse bucket, and then we did work relationships bucket. And so now we're looking at the connection with the divine. And these are all very important relationships also. So in my opinion, there's three important relationships: the one I have with myself, the one I have with you, and the one I have with my higher power. And so today we're looking at that relationship that we have with the higher power, because we've already looked at the one we have with ourselves, we've already looked at the ones we have with other humans. So now we're looking at the big picture. So as we connect to that which is greater than us, we start to realize how completely interconnected everything is. And the more we realize how absolutely interconnected everything is, the more we start realizing how our actions have reactions in the world, because we are part of this whole thing. So, I'm going to get just a little tiny bit into how our thoughts are things and our thoughts are creating reality, and how what we're thinking gets created in the world. I'm going to use a metaphor for that. And our thoughts obviously affect other people, because what we're thinking is our intention. And then when we interact with other people, we have the intention, and they can find out what that is by the way that we're talking to them. Um, and then also our thoughts magnetize or repel objects, circumstances, or opportunities to or from us. So if I don't believe that I have value, I'm not going to attract Oprah, in to watch me, right? Or if I think I'm extremely valuable, then I might attract Oprah or some other really amazing partner that can help to promote, whatever the message is for me or for you. Okay, so there is definitely a higher operating force, whether you call it God or the universe or quantum physics. There's definitely something bigger than us that is happening, that's making all of this work in the way that it works. And you're vibrating and you're magnetizing and you're inviting it to play with you. So if you're it doesn't matter to me what you want to call it. If you want to call it God or your higher power or a greater spirit or your what does Napoleon Hill call it? I don't know, he has a word for it. It's great. It's like your higher intellect. whatever you want to call it. Um, if you want to stick with me for this today, we're talking about that thing that's greater than you, that created the universe. Like I obviously didn't create the universe, something did, and that's what we're talking about today. So whether you're praying or meditating or channeling or doing yoga, there's definitely a force that's greater than you, and it's at play. So this is what I kind of think the problem that we come up against is. So I think that there's an internal sense of peace when all three of our buckets are full. So when I have a good relationship with myself, I have a good relationship with others, and I have a good relationship with what I'm going to call God today, which you can call universe or whatever you want to call it, then I experience a sense of peace in my life. I notice if one or two or all of them are missing, I don't have a sense of fulfillment. I don't have a sense of peace. I don't have a sense of happiness. And I think all three are based on trust. So sometimes bad things have happened to us. And since people tend to think in black and white, if God is good and then something bad happens, then God must not love me, right? We collapse that. And the same thing applies in interpersonal relationships because of what we learned from our parents as children. If I do something bad, then I'm bad because I got punished. And so in our little bitty minds, we create this story that I must be bad because I got punished. Our parents didn't learn to say, hey, that's bad behavior. You're a good person. Don't do that behavior. So because of that, that got collapsed. And therefore my behavior became, I am bad. Because those two things weren't differentiated for us as kids. And a lot of parents don't know how to do that. And so since a lot of religions project God as the Father, this gets collapsed also. And some religions will even say God's a punishing Father. And so some of those same beliefs got collapsed. So we learn not to trust ourselves because I'm bad. We learn not to trust others because they punish us when I'm bad. And oh no, I'm bad. That's who I am. I'm learning I'm bad. And then we learn that God's not going to save us. So we lose our trust all the way around. So good morning, everybody who's joining. I'm so glad you're here. So the universe is so expansive. God, this higher power, this creator. There's so many swirling planets moving around each other, right? You can't change the course of the planets. They just simply move, and then they go around the sun, and the moons go around the planets, and like this whole huge thing is just happening without your control. You can't control the planets moving. So in the same way that you can't control the planets moving, good morning, thank you, you're so sweet. In the same way that we can't control the planets moving, you can't control a river moving. Like you can't control a river flowing down, I guess the water flowing in the river. It can't be told where to go. It just goes, right? It just flows. If you throw a ball in the river, or you're watching like a little bob go down the river, it's going to go where it wants to go. You can't change it, but it will go. It will go somewhere, or it'll get caught in a current. It'll get caught in an eddy. Maybe it'll go down fast. But this is the universe at work, and this is the creative energy that we call God. So if the ball is in the river and it goes over the waterfall, is God bad? No, the ball just went with the flow. It went with the flow of life. It went with the flow of the river. Can I control it? Can I, with my mind, can I go, ball, go to the right, don't go down the waterfall. No, like that's not how this thing works. You can't control things with your thoughts. If the ball goes to the left and you want it to go to the right, does that mean that God doesn't love you now? No, it's just the flow, and you're trying to control something that's completely out of your control. Can you control a river? No, nobody can control a river. Can you make the water go that you want to make it go? No, I know that because as a child, I used to go in the pool and I used to throw the water and I used to try to get it to go exactly the same way. I mean, true controller right here. I'm trying to make the water do the same thing again and again. You just know you can never make the water do the same thing twice. That's why no two snowflakes are ever the same. Like, it's the flow of life, and I can't control it. You can't control it. And we try to control the river, but it just doesn't work. So surrendering to the river, surrendering to the flow, watching the beauty of it, that's actually being in it. That's being connected to it. That's being part of it. When I watch the beauty of the whole thing unfolding, when I take a step back and I go, wow, that's my life. Look what's happening. Oh, we're buying a house. Oh, my boyfriend's being great. Oh, my boyfriend's being a jerk. Oh, it's watching the ball float down the river. I can't control the ball. And some of us are trying so hard to control the ball, and you can't. So this higher operating force that we call God makes the planets circle around each other and the sun, and then it makes the river flow. And the more time you spend connecting with it, the more faith you create. And you create the faith that what will happen is going to happen in its own time. And you start believing in the flow, you start believing in the goodness of all things. And when you watch the river, it's beautiful. And when you watch a little flower grow into a plant, it's a miracle. And when you watch a little puppy grow into a dog or a baby grow into a person, it's amazing. It's a miracle. And paying attention to these little things is actually what creates faith in a higher power, and creates this connection. So the river is going to flow, and your thoughts are actually, so this is how we do, like the manifestation bit. Your thoughts are like edging out the river. So the thought that I'm thinking today about either I love my life or I'm a crappy person who's bad, whatever it is, that those thoughts are actually vibrating, magnetizing, attracting, and actually edging out the river. Now, does that mean that the water's going to flow the way I want it to, or the ball in the water is going to flow the way I want it to? No, not that. But it is like, if we're going to use this metaphor, it is like edging out the river. The thoughts that I'm thinking are leading me in a direction, and then the rest of it's just going to happen. And maybe there's a drought, and maybe there's a flood, and that's just life. That part's not the part that you control. Maybe it's winter, maybe it's summer. Like, that's going to happen. There's going to be winter, and then there's going to be summer, and it's going to happen every year. And you can't make summer happen in winter, and you can't make a flower grow faster than it wants to, and you can't make a baby walk before it wants to, right? This is just trusting in the flow of life. This is trusting the higher power. This is trusting the God thing. This is trusting the thing that makes all this creative expansiveness work together. So the more you have a repeating thought, obviously, the more you're going to edge out this river, and the water is going to flow in that direction. So that's the quantum physics aspect, right? That the thoughts create reality. So, your thoughts, they are a vibration. They are going to edge out the path. Like I said, does it mean that the ball is going to go the way you want? No. Does it mean the river is going to flow the direction that your thoughts have paved? Yes, more than likely. How do I know this? I don't know. I pay attention. I like quantum physics. I like to read about this stuff, and the more you watch your thoughts, the more you watch your vibration, the more you do pay attention, the more you sit back and be a witness to all of this, the sooner you're going to see, and actually happens more quickly every day, that, oh my God, I had that thought a week ago or 6 months ago, and look, shoot, now it's here. This is amazing. Now it's here. Like, Mike and I sat around thinking about, what do we want our home to look like? What do we want our home to look like? What do we want our home to look? And then we would imagine, oh, well, we want stairs, and we want, at least 4 separate spaces. And I really want a big jacuzzi tub. It's not a necessity, but I really love them. And Mike really wanted like a big lake and a water view, and we wanted a specific price. And like, we looked and we looked, and we put contracts down and contracts down, and it wasn't all of that. It wasn't. And then this one was all of that. And then the contract, it went through. And actually, part of the way that I got that was I wrote a letter to the lady. Hey, good morning. I'm glad you're here. I wrote a letter to the lady who owns the home. And that's connecting between people, right? So we're talking about connecting to our higher power, connecting to ourselves, relationships. Relationships are really, really important. And so the more that we learn to trust ourselves, the more we learn to trust others, the more we learn to trust God, right? This is how you're building your faith. And the more you see it, the more faith you have, the more trust that you have. And then, of course, the more trust and faith that you have, the more you're able to actually manifest your dreams, desires, hopes, wishes, all of that, because you start to realize how powerful your thoughts really are, and that you really are this magnet. You really are magnetizing what you want into your life. Um, and as you learn to be open to receiving all of this love from yourself, the first 5 buckets, you got the self-love bucket, the self-care bucket, the worthiness bucket, watching your thoughts, all of those buckets are starting to get filled up. You start to be able to be open because you actually love yourself and you trust yourself and how you're moving through the universe, right? And so then we're thinking positive thoughts, and then you learn to be open to receiving all of that abundance. And I think being open to receiving is a really big part of all of it. So as you open to the abundance of the universe and you start to give your gifts, you begin to understand opening to and receiving the love, giving the love openly and freely. This free flow starts to happen. It's very, very magical. It's very fulfilling. It's very peaceful. It feels like home. The more that I learn to step back and be a witness and to surrender and be open and exchange this love energy, the more my life is satisfying and fulfilling. And in the moments that I forget to do all of that, and I go back in my head and I go back to that tightness and that control and the judgment and the self-criticism and the self-hate and being hard on myself and all that, that's the moment that, all of a sudden life is terrible, because I have disconnected from myself, from others, and from the flow of the creator flow of the universe. So if you're finding yourself trying to push the river, which, I know that I have done that at times in my life, and I know that it was really, really imperative and really important for me to find somebody to guide me back home, back to myself, back to my own center, back to my own peace. If you're finding yourself going, that person is driving me crazy, I can't make her do what I want, or how come he just won't listen to me, or all of those types of interactions and ways of being is a tightening down, a locking down. It's not the letting go, open, faith, trust process that I've been talking about. It's trying to mentally control which way the ball goes down the river, and you're only going to ever experience suffering and dissatisfaction doing it that way. Learning to let the ball just flow down the river is the key to happiness. So if you want to work on your relationship with yourself, with others, or with your connection to the divine, I am absolutely here. If you want to learn how to surrender, that's like one of my very favorite topics for coaching. If you have no idea how to fill your own love buckets or how to take care of yourself, because I remember a time when I was literally struggling to eat right or exercise or wash my own face or do my work, or any of that stuff can be very frustrating. And then when you don't do that, there's a lot of shame and like self-guilt and self-punishment. You're so bad and wrong and all that stuff that we talked about at the beginning of the video. So if you're finding yourself doing that, it's time to let go. It's time to stop. And if you're having trouble learning how to let go or stop, please give me a call. We'll do a free consultation. You can book a breakthrough session right on my website. And I'm really, really happy to help you to learn to connect. Because if you are living a peaceful life, if I have peace internally, you have peace internally, that's actually what creates peace on the planet, when everybody's living peacefully inside of themselves. And, my vision is that we all are connected to ourselves, connected to each other, connected to our divine power. And that when we are doing that, we're actually living in our divine gifts and purpose, like the reason that we came here. So can you imagine if every person had an internal sense of peace, power, and love, and could interact with other people in that peaceful, powerful, loving way? And then also each one of us were doing our gifts at the same time. That's actually bucket number 10, which we'll do next week. And we'll be looking at living in your purpose, and what it's like when you are doing your calling, your life's work, what that feels like, and what kind of world we create when we step into that. So that is my mission. I'm really glad that you are here with me this morning. Thank you for joining me. And if you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out. Hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, and you can join me on Facebook every Monday at 10 a.m. live. So I hope you guys have a wonderful and magnificent week. And if you missed this, you can watch the replay on Facebook, or you can check out my blog, which is on heatherhundhausen.com. All right, I will talk with you guys next week. Have an awesome one.